In this video, I'm going to show you the best render settings so that your renders can happen more fast and more quickly. So, I have my lovely scene over here. I have a lovely car sitting on a, let's say, a circle, extruded out some faces. So as you can see, I am on my rendered viewport shading mode. So I'm going to show you the best render setting for cycles, because cycles takes the longest time. Eevee, you can do it more fast. Eevee takes a lot less time, but cycles, it's when it takes maybe sometimes hours to render only one frame. And I'm going to show you how to decrease that time. So let's move on. Let's go to our render settings over here. This camera icon, render properties. As you can see, our render engine is going to be cycles, not Eevee. So I'm going to show you this, that in the device, you should always do GPU compute. If you have an amazing GPU like me, you should do GPU compute. Then you should be using GPU, because statistics show that GPU is far better than CPU. So take advantage of your GPU, guys. So now once you have done that, that's one setting done. And then over here in the noise threshold, not in the viewport, in the render settings, let's minimize that. In the render settings, noise threshold, what that just means is that when this is reached, so if 0.01 noise threshold is reached, then they can denoise it. We are going to increase this 0.5, so then you can happen a bit more fast. 0.5 is the best one. And then max samples, this is too much. 4096 is too much. You're going to decrease that to, let's say, I feel like 2016 should be good enough, and maybe the minimal sample should not be 0 to make it. Depends on your project. I feel like 32 should be enough. Another time limit is like the time limit you will give for each frame. This is the maximum time it will take to render. So for example, you can say I want each frame to take a maximum of 1 minute to render. So you just type 1 minute. So each frame will take a maximum of 1 minute. So if it hasn't rendered in 1 minute, then it will just denoise it, and then that will just happen. So I wouldn't do 1 minute because it might ruin the quality. If you want to have good quality, then 5 minutes should be good, okay? So now, once we have done that, now let's move down over here to performance. So in performance, you will see over here the pixel size. And the pixel size, it's going to stay automatic. But you can also do it 8 times. I feel like pixel size, if it's 8 times, then you will see how it's like this. But if you are rendering from far away, then I would recommend that setting. But for in this instance, I want it to have a closed shot pixel size. So I'm going to do it automatic. And as you can see, we can see the clear difference. So now the pixel size, it depends on this is the viewport. But now what I was actually trying to show you is this over here. Persistent data. Now what this does is that it saves the data for your render. Okay, so basically, it will use this information. So it will calculate every single thing in the first frame, but then it will not have to calculate on the second frame. So it will use the data it has calculated in the first frame and use it on the second frame, so that it doesn't have to recalculate it. So then it will just save the data each time you are doing a frame, so then it will just take much less time. That's persistent data. Now that's for animation. So like if it's like a timeline, you have multiple frames, that's very good. If you have like one frame, that's just useless. So, but for animation, persistent data is the best setting. So now once you have done that, we are now going to move on to light paths. Now light paths is like how many bounces it does. 12 is literally too much. For example, I only have one light beam, as you can see. One light beam, my whole render. I'll leave it there. I think 12 is too much, because as you can see, if I use my scientific knowledge, it's going to bounce 1, 2, maybe. More normally, it's going to, over here, it's bouncing 5 times. But my best thing is 8 in total. I would just keep it at 8. As you can see, nothing really changed. It could look, let's see 12. 12 is like this. 8 is like this. Nothing changed. But if you do 1, you will see the massive difference, as you can see. So as you can see, the shadows over here are really affected. But 8 is going to be my best optimal setting. As you can see, I think these are the defaults are the best. And then over here, you can also do simplify. Simplify if you want to simplify stuff in the renders with your max subdivisions. If you have a subdivision surface modifier, lots of subdivision surface modifiers, then you can press the simplify button, and then you can also decrease the max subdivisions over here. Okay, you can decrease the max subdivisions, but I don't have any subdivisions, so I'm going to leave it just like that. So now once you have done that, this is the one that no one knows this. When you're rendering, you press render, then you render image, that's what you do, or press F12, but no one knows this. But when you render it, do not render when you're in the rendered material mode. In the rendered mode, rendered viewport shading mode, do not render it, as it will need to calculate more stuff. It will also need to calculate the rendered viewport shading mode, and then also calculate the render itself. So what you should do, you should either go into the shading mode. As you can see, the FPS, the viewport FPS is much faster, as you can see, and then or you can go into the wireframe mode, doesn't really matter, and this is even more faster. Or you can see that massive difference. Now, if you now render this in like wireframe mode or shading mode, it will render like very, very fast, because it doesn't have to calculate that much in the shading mode or the wireframe mode. I will show you right now. So if in wireframe mode, you can see that is moving so fast. The viewport has a high FPS. But then if I go into rendered viewport shading mode, it takes a lot of time to calculate. But then as you can see, it is much more laggy. That's why you should always go to the shading mode and then press render image. And that is how you would render your lovely, lovely image.